The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. And I want you guys to really think about that, because it wasn't till about 100 years ago that the Model T, the Ford Model T, was rolling down the road. I'm pretty sure very uncomfortably and without its seatbelt. But the Earth being 4.5 billion years old, I was sitting down on the couch one day and I was thinking, how long are cars going to last? Are they going to last 500 years, 1,000 years? So I sat down and I started to do some research. I started to pull up some scientific sites. I started to look at some chemistry, some structural analysis documents that people have produced from different companies, all the way from structural companies for buildings, to rubber companies who make tires, to aluminum companies who offer different variations of aluminum. And that's when I took down some notes, and I thought I'd tell you guys about the lifespan of a typical car. So most cars today consist of a lot of aluminum, stainless steel, iron, steel, and also different components and fibers like carbon fiber, fiberglass, and other types of plastics and rubbers. But for this video, I stuck solely to the most popular used components and I looked at their lifespans. So let's go ahead and dive deep into the first one, which is aluminum. The use of aluminum is maybe about 100 plus years old. As a matter of fact, one of the case studies that people use to see how long aluminum will last is this statue called the Euros, which was constructed in the late 1800s, and it is still standing. And in 1953, that statue, which was made of some very fine and pure aluminum, was checked and it was in excellent condition. And if you think about that, a statue which is erected outside is going to see all types of environments, anywhere ranging from cold, hot, humid, rain, everything that you could think of, and also the natural pollution and environment around it in its city or town. So I wanted to give you an example about aluminum, how long it could last in the car. Well, luckily, a lot of the aluminum on our car isn't bare, because when you look at aluminum, it could either be its sole, pure element, all the way to the way that it's refined and structured and casted. And a lot of the aluminum in vehicles is anodized. And what that is, it's a coating over the actual aluminum. And that takes the aluminum lifespan a lot farther. Just to give you an idea, the worst case scenario, if you put a piece of aluminum to decompose, it would take from 200 to 500 years to fully degrade. Now, if the aluminum is bare and is just in the natural environments, you're gonna see anywhere from a lifespan of 50 to 75 years. But the environment is everything, because if you have a piece of anodized aluminum, it can last forever if it's in the right environment. But as far as vehicle goes, and that's where we're gonna segue into iron or steel, as a matter of fact, they say that regular steel and iron will only last on a vehicle anywhere from 15 to 25 years. And if you think back about the older cars that you see in junkyards, or you see kind of those rustic antique pictures, those vehicles, if you look at them, they're brown, they're rusting, they're flaking. And that's because a lot of those vehicles were made of iron and steel that was in a beginning process of being casted and formed and introduced into different things. So there's science behind all of this. And if you guys don't know what stainless steel is, it's anything that has chromium. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but let me go ahead and give you, it's chromium. It sounds something from like Marvels. And if it has 10% or more of chromium in it, it's stainless steel. And when that is introduced in the process with steel, believe it or not, that stainless steel could survive. Instead of 15 to 25 years, it could have an indefinite life if it is not exposed to the elements. If that stainless steel isn't pitting, or if it's not falling apart, essentially it really comes down to the environment, going back to everything that we talked about. So one of the things that you see in cars really is a lot of aluminum. And that goes back to our question of how long cars are going to last. Well, a lot of these high-end cars that you see that have like 5,000 miles, they're typically in a garage, which keeps them from the UV, keeps them from the rain, keeps them from a lot of elements. But a lot of garages in the United States and around the world have humidity and still see minor heat cycles and still see some moisture within the garage. Believe it or not, if you park your car in the garage and you turn it off and you go inside and you close your garage, you're actually trapping the heat from that engine in the garage. And if you have anything else in there, let's say you drove through some rain or you just washed it or another car washed it or any type of humidity in there, you're now introducing an interesting ozone inside your garage. Well, a lot of these high-end garages are also climate controlled. So not only are they protected from the environment, but they're also protected from the internal climate control in the garage. And that's why a lot of these high-end vehicles that you see that are like maybe a 1950 Shelby GT500 that's been in the garage and in the climate control, the preservation process has really been increased because you've limited those factors. Now, one of the things that you really can't undo or address, and that's why it's one of those things that we all know this in the car community, is rubber. Rubber's lifespan, and I'm going through all this right here, let's see. Rubber is about 5 to 25 years, depending on the rubber, Viaton or other rubber that you have, but it has a hard lifespan. Around 20 to 25 years, it literally starts to break down, like its actual physical components and molecules start to degrade. Now, it is incredibly increased with moisture, UV, and heat. And that's why you see cars that sit outside or you see cars that see a lot of heat cycles, the rubber starts to expand or expose, or the worst case scenario, it starts to literally disintegrate and it becomes into fine powder. So rubber definitely has one of those lifespans that we all see in cars. That is a definite, and that's one of those things that we almost can't stop. So it's a good idea to order new parts from Megazip. I put that plug in there because, hey, they're my sponsor. I'm going to put it in there. But you know what? Rubber parts on our NSXs and other JDM cars are going bad, so you better order them. All right, so a couple of fun things that you guys should know is that carbon fiber does not degrade and does not have a lifespan. It is indefinite, right? It's going to be here forever. The only thing that degrades is the coating that people put on top, like the clear coat. That's going to degrade. We've all seen that happen in carbon fiber hoods or seen pictures of it. And also, if you crack it, it's prone to actual abrasive damage or an impact damage. If you crack it, it's going to be cracked, which makes sense. But the actual fibers and the actual physical properties of it does not degrade, which is crazy. So after all this information, what is the final conclusion of this? Well, if you had, let's say if you drive your car, right, and you're going to drive it for the next 30, 40 years. Well, you're exposing it through heat cycles, elements, moisture, UV, and stuff like that. So those metals will see some degrading. But let's say in the future, you know, like our cars that we have and you guys have, let's say the NSX, it's going to be so collectible that most likely it is going to be in a garage in a climate control environment. Well, at that point in time, somebody could put a pause on its degradation. And people are going to know that. It's going to be a science because these cars are going to need that because they do have a lifespan. And that's why you see cars at junkyards. And the reason why is that a car at the end of the day, if it sees the elements, if it's utilized for a solid 40, 50 years, and you look at the vehicle, most likely it is already hitting its lifespan of anywhere from 50 to 100 years if it's being utilized a lot. If it's not, you could use methods to keep it from degrading or from having a shorter lifespan. But at the end of the day, a car will only last depending on its environment and how you address that, if you address it. All right, guys, well, I hope you learned something. I thought this was interesting, and I love learning stuff out. I learned a lot because it's this stuff around us everywhere that we see. All right, guys, thank you. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.